There are a lot of aircraft that are on display, and we're going to look at those in Eastern Ontario, especially in 6 different locations where you can find these aircraft that are on display and been mounted on a pedestal or just mounted on the ground. So let's go to Ontario in Canada. And once we do that, we're going to head to the eastern part of the province, starting with the city of Kingston. We move to Brockville. Next, we'll move into Smith Falls, Cornwall, Petawawa, and last but not least, at Sealy's Bay in Ottawa, the capital city of Canada. So here we go, and let's take a look. So we'll start in Kingston, at CFB Kingston, and this is the CH-136 Kiowa, and it has been mounted there for quite a long time. It's fairly well looked after. The sun damage to the cockpit area is not too great, and it looks pretty good sitting up there. The Kiowa has been retired from the Canadian Armed Forces for quite a long time, but it was used mainly by the Army for scouting purposes. And a good read for people would be Loach Pilot by Bruce Carnegie, displaying what he did as a pilot in the Contra affair, flying one of these Kiowas. Next, we have what will be called rather a strange duck, if you wanted to call it that, the CF-5 Freedom Fighter, as it's known throughout most of the world, and it was also known as the CF-116 in Canada. These were made basically in Canada under license at Canadair, and they were supersonic. They were used basically in a ground support role, but they were almost a jet that had no real purpose. They were cheap, but they had a very limited range, very limited capability. And the last ones to roll off the assembly line basically ended up in a warehouse. And you will find a number of these CF-5 or 116s on display throughout Canada. This one, by the way, can be found again at Canadian Forces Base in Kingston. And while at CFB Kingston, there are also other artifacts such as armor that you can take a look at that helped the 1st Canadian Division. And you'll also find a communications museum on the grounds. Well worth visiting. Trust me, it really is. Now we have the CF-100 Canuck, or some people call it the Clunk. It had a few other ones, the Cement Sled and so on. It was built in Canada, and it is Canada's last interceptor that was totally designed and built in Canada. This one can also be found at CFB Kingston, just actually on part of the grounds of the Royal Military College that is in Kingston. And I do believe this is a Mark IV. Now, like most aircraft that are kept outside in Canada, they start out looking very good, but But as time goes by and neglect is there, you can see rust has started to take over in certain parts of this aircraft, and the paint is peeling and it's fading, and it needs quite a bit of restoration work to bring it back to its former glory. And again, that's a problem with those aircraft that are placed on display. Now, I didn't have a chance to go and look at this aircraft because it's no longer there. It has been taken down to do restoration at the Royal Military College in Kingston. And this will give you an idea. I took these pictures from a newspaper that showed it being removed from its pedestal because the pedestal was cracking and needed to be replaced. And hopefully it will be put back soon. Also in Kingston, if you go to the Norman Rogers Airport, you will find this Harvard on display outside of the Royal Canadian Air Force Association building. Now, moving to Smith Falls, we'll have the same aircraft, which is a Harvard, that is there as a Centennial Project. In 1967, it was placed on a podium or a pedestal such as this one, and it has quite a history. And why the history is quite a history is the fact that we're not sure what squadron it flew with. It has the numbers 443 on the side of it, but that is not the squadron or the number of the aircraft. That is the Royal Canadian Air Force Association 443 number, and it was painted on the side to commemorate them. So this aircraft is there. It's by a park and the Rideau Canal. Moving to Brockville, we have a Musketeer, which was used by the Air Cadet program, and it can be found on the side of Highway number 2, and it is mounted just on the outskirts of the city of Brockville. And you can see its call sign being 134870, which would have been its serial number. And like most aircraft, it is given a designation. This is the 134 series. Still in Brockville, if you go down by the waterfront, you are going to find a Sabrejet, an F-86, that is in the Golden Hawks Aerobatic Flight Team colors. This aircraft really was not a part of the Golden Hawks, but it's painted to look like it. This is a Canadair aircraft built in Montreal, and used to be one of the frontline aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force in the 1950s and 1960s, and retired in the early 1970s. This particular aircraft, while it looks pretty good, does need quite a bit of restoration, and the city and the volunteers in Brockville have been working very hard to raise money to both refurbish the aircraft, plus also refurbish the pedestal that it is sitting on. So that is going to be an interesting project, and very glad to see that we have people willing to do a restoration on projects such as this. If you ever have a chance to go down by the waterfront in Brockville, Ontario, it's a very scenic, very beautiful area, and this aircraft is placed right in amongst it. And just note on this aircraft, you have 2 drop tanks that are with it. Normally those would not be used by the Golden Hawks. And as I said, the waterfront area in Brockville, very beautiful area looking over at the United States. Now, moving farther up the river, we're going to Cornwall. And we're going to look at an old CT-133 or T-Bird in front of the Royal Canadian Air Force Association building. And this particular one helps to commemorate the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, especially for number 13 Squadron, which is just up the road at St. Eugene. And this aircraft, well maintained so far. If you take a look below it, you will see a number of bricks. Those bricks are sold to help raise funds for the restoration and maintenance and upkeep of this particular aircraft. And you'll see number 347 clearly on the side of it. These aircraft were basically used for training. And further up in Cornwall, you will find another one at NAVCAM. So another CT-133. This is a Mark III. And it, again, is overlooking the river. And it is given to NAVCAM basically for all the work that NavCan, or Navigation Canada, has done over the years to help promote aircraft safety, and continuing to teach new and upcoming air traffic controllers. And by the way, that in the side is where a bunch of pigeons enter and leave. So we know that there's quite a few droppings on the side of this aircraft, which will have to be taken care of at some point. So this CT-133, second one in Cornwall. Now, moving to Garrison Petawawa, we're going to take a look at another Kiowa. And the Kiowa that's on display here is not in the museum, but it's at the front of the garrison, which really is a gate guard. And this particular Kiowa, you'll note the windows in the front, or the cockpit area, has been covered over to protect it and to maintain it from leaking on the inside. So there it is with some of the old artillery and tanks that you would have found there before. And now we move to the DAC, or the DC-3, that is on display at Garrison Petawawa. And it's there as part of the airborne that used to be at CFB Petawawa, or Garrison Petawawa. And this particular aircraft actually was used in World War II. Now, you'll probably note some items with this particular aircraft. While it looks pretty good at a distance, once you start to get a closer look at it, you'll find that it really is in need of some tender loving care, as you can see. So there you go, DAC. We're hoping that things get cleaned up for you. Moving further away, we're going to go to Ottawa, to Sealy's Bay, which is on a military base. And we're going to look at another CT-133. I didn't take these pictures. I took them from Harold Scarrett, who is very renowned for the pictures he has. And I did not have access. Anyway, there you go. There are some of the aircraft that we have in Eastern Ontario that are either mounted on display on a pedestal or just on the ground. So here's hoping they will continually be maintained and keep them around, because history is worth remembering. So thank you very much for watching Flightline Museum. Check out our other videos. Again, thank you very much. And if you really like this, tell others. Because these videos are made with a passion and a love for aircraft, museums, and history.